Climate change is the greatest problem of the 21st century. It's a problem not simply for future generations for today. It's a problem that has implications for economic justice, for social justice, and for the future of our world. Communities in the South are already coming to terms with this new reality. Increased temperatures, rising sea levels, low crop yields, drought, and stronger and more frequent hurricanes. The inequity crisis in the South will continue to be amplified by climate change, making it that much more important for the region to act. High levels of poverty and inequality are associated with energy insecurity, increased vulnerability during extreme weather events, and higher risks from pollution. The Southern Economic Advancement Project, or SEAP, has published state and local decarbonization policies for the South, with the aim of informing state and local policymakers, as well as the other stakeholders focusing on these issues, about policies Southern states could adopt to address climate change and create well-paying jobs. With me today is Dr. Leah Stokes, co-author of the SEAP report and assistant professor at the University of California, Santa Barbara, as well as Rhiana Gunn-Wright, director of climate policy at the Roosevelt Institute. Welcome to you both. Leah, what are some of the challenges and opportunities in acting boldly on climate mitigation?
Well, right now across the South and the Southeast, a good number of states get tax revenue from fossil fuel development, and we have jobs in that sector across the region. But even today, a lot of the fossil fuel infrastructure that we're operating is actually not economically viable. So most coal plants across the South are actually costing ratepayers extra money to keep them operating. And if we transition them to renewables, people would be saving money on their electricity bills. And of course, it would also be cleaning up the air, which is so important from an equity perspective. The other thing is that if we plan this transition in a smart way with government policy, then we can make sure that we have a strong economy. I love to say that the good news is that climate change is so hard to deal with that it can create an enormous amount of jobs if we only try to take on the issue. In states where these policies have been passed that we talk about in the report, there's a lot of renewable energy investment, local tax revenues going up, and that is providing a lot of benefits in terms of health and as well as safety across those areas. So the policies we cover in this report are aiming to reduce emissions, but also build employment and economic growth, and provide a lot of health benefits by eliminating things like air pollution, particulate matter, mercury, and so on. So there's a lot of huge benefits that the South can have. We can put decarbonization front and center, but we can always remember that that will also create equity benefits for many people, including communities of color that are at the front line across the South of climate impacts as well as pollution. So we can address climate change and deal with our economic crisis as well as with our injustices that are happening across the South right now.
So Rhiana, how does the South compare with other regions when it comes to climate policy and climate action, especially in the context of environmental justice?
Yes, so in a lot of ways, the South has untapped potential for economic growth and climate leadership, and also some intrinsic strengths. Communities through the South have acknowledge the importance of ecosystems around them, and they value their preservation. And in lots of ways, there's some deep knowledge about ecosystems and the land and the ways that we're connected in the land that are really, really important for ongoing decarbonization. And some communities in the South, including Louisiana and Florida, they've already invested in efforts to rebuild coastal ecosystems that have been damaged and destroyed by development, including dredging, filling, and diking. But at the same time, most states in the South have yet to adopt the sort of robust decarbonization policies that have the greatest impact on reducing our carbon footprint and reducing emissions. So things like state level renewable energy targets. The South tends to lag in electric vehicle use. And at the same time, you also have some of the most intense environmental injustice with the clustering of petrochemical factories, for instance, along the Gulf. And so you do have these disparities in the ways that the environment affects people's income and their health. And all of that means that reducing greenhouse gas emissions in the South will be no small feat, but it is really achievable. And the South is poised to make up for lost time by passing bold climate policy that protects the environment, allows a transition from fossil fuels to be equitable, and to really serve the communities that have borne the brunt of fossil fuel pollution, and to do this even in the absence of federal action. And so climate change is here. It represents a serious threat to the health and the economy and the ecosystems of folks in the South, but there's still so much opportunity to turn that around.
Dr. Gunn-Wright, Dr. Stokes, thank you both for your conversation, because I think it's critical that we understand in this moment of upheaval, where we are facing questions of systemic racism, systemic injustice, where we are focusing on how we dismantle systems of inequity, that we not lose sight of the existential threat that is climate action, the existential threat that we have to alter. We have to alter the current trajectory of the region that is the South so that we can take leadership across scales of government to reorient sectors across the economy and stop the unabated risks of climate change. As both of you have mentioned, we know that we can shape the future into one that's centered on sustainability and a vibrant local economy, or we can allow global warming and climate change to take its toll on the region, destroying our communities, especially the most vulnerable and the least resilient. Our report provides a menu of policy options for policymakers to consider in their efforts to address one of the most pressing issues of our time. And this is not in lieu of, but in addition to, the pursuit that we must have of justice. These advancements will generate new good-paying job opportunities, improve air quality and public health, reduce energy burdens for households, and bolster economic growth. Together, these changes can build a more resilient and more equitable South and a more prosperous United States. Please visit theseep.org to access the report and a toolkit on climate change policy, as well as SEEP's great resources on making a stronger South. We look forward to having you visit.